Hello, everyone. I'm Courtney Patterson, Senior Content Strategist at Dice. This is our first installment of a video series called State of the Tech Job Market, where we'll talk about trends in the tech job postings on a quarterly basis. In this video series, we'll be looking at the demand for tech talent and what's happening in the tech hiring space that may impact your job search if you're a tech professional or your hiring strategies if you're a tech recruiter. I'm joined today by Art Zeile, CEO of Dice, who will be sharing his thoughts about the overall tech job market right now and commenting on tech job posting data from Q1 2023. Thanks for being here, Art.
Thank you, Courtney. Thanks for having me.
So let's dive in. First, let's chat about tech unemployment. The tech unemployment rate remains stable at 2.2% in March, and it continues to trend below the national average, which was 3.5% in March. Art, could you start by talking to us about the overall state of the tech job market in the context of the tech unemployment rate?
Absolutely. So the tech unemployment rate has held steady below the national average for many years now. And we don't expect that to change anytime soon, especially with how focused organizations are on leveraging tech to optimize and expand their businesses. While we did see an uptick this quarter from 1.5% in January to 2.2% in February and March, the fact remains that it is lower than the national unemployment rate. And that speaks to the importance of tech talent and how difficult it can be to find and fill tech roles today.
Yeah, and speaking of challenges, the first quarter of 2023 was fraught with micro events that have impacted the tech community. We had layoffs in January and February, the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, promises of an end to interest rate hikes, the widespread experimentation, and the use of ChatGPT and the like. These micro events are all playing into this macro environment for sure, but how much are they actually really affecting the tech job market?
These events are definitely impacting the tech job market, and each in different ways. The adoption of ChatGPT, both at the consumer level and the company level, emphasizes this relentless push towards automation in today's world. In the context of organizations and hiring, it makes skills like communication and teamwork increasingly important. And we believe that in the near future, software engineers may find more of their time focused on creative, intuitive tasks such as project management and coming up with new feature sets, and less on tasks that can be taken over by automation, some types of coding and debugging. The layoffs this quarter, of course, also impacted the tech community, and we're still seeing the reverberations of those impacts. A company called Finbold reported that 166,000 workers were laid off in the tech industry in Q1. And while layoffs are terrible, there's no question about it, and we never want them, the layoffs in this quarter were perceived to have a greater negative impact on demand for tech talent than they actually had. While these larger organizations like Google and Amazon laid off workers, organizations in other industries across the economy, from manufacturing to retail, still exhibited strong demand for tech professionals of all types. In March alone, more than 316,000 new tech jobs were posted, according to Lightcast. Tech professionals leaving these big tech companies are finding their way into other industries that still very much need their skills. And the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, while also obviously a difficult situation that has caused some understandable panic for tech startups, and specifically those in the finance space, it didn't dampen demand at all for other financial firms generally. It remains to be seen what those impacts of SBV will have on the overall industry. But for right now, finance and banking is actually one of the top industries hiring for tech talent today.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the number of tech jobs tech postings we had in March. We actually saw a 21% month-over-month increase in new tech job postings from February to March. And This month, CompTIA reported that the majority of HR professionals expect to maintain their pace of hiring, which is great news. So knowing that the tech job postings are up in March, despite layoffs and other macro trends, let's dive into what Q1 tech job postings looked like by industries, occupations, tech skills, and locations. So we'll start with industries. In terms of employers with the most new tech job postings added in Q1, these are the industries that had the highest demand for tech talent in the first quarter of 2023. Art, what is it exactly that's driving the demand for tech talent in each of these top industries?
That's a great question. I'll start with finance and banking. Despite some of the volatility that we've seen in this industry, which we just talked about with regard to Silicon Valley Bank, crypto, and other instances, tech hiring in the broader financial sector remains very strong. Finance companies increasingly need tech skills in order to compete. For example, many are relying on data scientists and analysts to crunch data for crucial insights and software developers to build out new mobile apps and other features. As we move forward, finance companies will only devote more resources towards artificial intelligence, that's for sure, as well as machine learning for everything from fraud prevention to cybersecurity to customer service chatbots. So there's a lot that's going on right now in finance and banking. With regard to consulting, it's the client demand that's driving investment in tech talent. Clients who don't have adequate tech teams have been looking to consulting firms for crucial technical knowledge and expertise to spin up complicated projects that will keep them relevant in today's competitive market. So consulting firms have been building their own in-house tech teams as quickly as they can to keep up with this specialized client work. Consulting firms are also investing heavily in cutting-edge areas such as virtual reality, the metaverse, cybersecurity, all in anticipation that clients will ask for help building new applications, new capabilities within the next few years. And then for aerospace and defense, this remains an industry that's in perpetual need of the best tech talent, from cybersecurity experts, obviously, to data science experts, to hardware, software engineers. This industry is always on the list because of the nature of the work and the business models that rely strongly on government contracts. And there's no question that given that we just passed one of the largest increases in the defense budget in our lifetime, there is more work to come for military contractors in the defense industry at large.
That's great. That's really good insight. And before we move on to our next topic of occupations, I do want to plug the DICE Industry Tech Job Reports, which we will be releasing in June. And each of those industry-specific reports will present data on what occupations and tech skills are in highest demand and the top location that each industry is hiring in. So be sure to check those out for more industry-specific insights in June. Okay. Top occupations by tech job posting volume. This list should not surprise you if you've been following DICE's biannual tech job reports. What are your thoughts on this list? Many of the titles they've been on this list consistently quarter over quarter for the last couple of years, but what trends are you seeing that drive the demand for each of the tech professionals in these fields?
That's a great question as well, Courtney. And so you're absolutely right. These statistics have largely remained stable for quite some time. So the volume statistics continue to show the highest demand for engineers, both in development and data-related roles. While driving this demand, what's driving this demand is organizations still working through digital transformation initiatives and continuing to fill out their own core tech teams to do so. No matter what its current strategy and goals, organizations just about everywhere need software engineers to carry out everything from building new vital services to maintaining their existing mountains of legacy code, their tech debt, as they say it in the industry. As digital transformations continue to gain momentum and companies build out their tech stacks, their infrastructure necessarily becomes more complex. Even small businesses rely on a variety of on-premises and cloud-based solutions that become ever and more complex and connected. This means that organizations increasingly need systems and network engineers who can build, maintain, and secure all these very intricate tech stacks, as well as data engineers who can ensure that the data flows through the systems are efficient and protected. So data roles specifically have continued to be in high demand. Companies everywhere recognize the need to process and analyze data to discover trends and to effectively define and refine their strategies. And they need data engineers to build out systems to store and move data and to have data analysts that handle those tricky day-to-day data questions, data scientists to provide data insight. So there's a lot going on in that set of roles that are associated with data. The thing with most of these occupations in highest demand is that they represent the type of technology talent that every organization needs to not only pursue digitization and forward-looking initiatives, but also to run their basic business operations. So it's a combination of both. And so tech talent has become critical to the success of businesses across all industries and verticals, making tech professionals critical to growth and ultimately to the profitability of the firms themselves.
I could not agree more. And when it comes to tech skills, we are seeing a little more change from quarter to quarter here than we do with occupations generally. These top skills, they correlate to the demand trends that we just talked about for occupations. So could you share with us the connections that you see from the list of in-demand skills we're looking at now versus the occupations that we just talked about?
You're absolutely right. We always say that the half-life of a tech skill is about 5 years. So the skills themselves are changing much faster than the titles or roles themselves. And so to answer your question, many of these skills, as you pointed out, are in direct correlation with the tech occupations that are in the highest demand. Companies are increasing their dependence on data, which means that they need tech pros skilled in SQL, which is necessary for manipulating relational databases. Python and Java are also vital, both as a means of maintaining legacy applications, building out new services and new applications. And Python is a great generalist language that is increasingly vital for any kind of a data analytics operation or data insights operation. You'll also see automation high on this list, which is which I mentioned earlier. This is a market-wide focus for many organizations employing tech talent today. Automation allows organizations to become much more efficient while freeing up tech professionals to focus on critical strategic tasks. And of course, broader tech skills like software development and software engineering have become core and systemic to the skills of organizations as they look at tech talent to power their businesses.
Yeah, and now before we wrap up today, I do want to chat about tech job postings by location because we're seeing something quite interesting that's continued into Q1. So, as we look at the city and state data side by side, we see that California tops the state list, while San Francisco and Los Angeles aren't even in the top 5 cities hiring for tech talent right now. Why is that?
Well, when it comes to tech hubs, those that are growing and those established, the biggest trend we're seeing right now is a spreading out of tech talent across the country, particularly with California, which has always been traditionally known as the epicenter of tech. And this is happening for a few distinct reasons. Cost of living and cost of doing business have always been higher in California. And so naturally, when confidence in the market drops, consumers and companies are immediately looking for ways to cut spending. Build Remote reports that since 2020, more than 250 companies have moved their headquarters out of California, with a significant portion of them moving to Texas, which we've seen inch closer and closer to competing with California for the top spot as we've been trending these reports. California is also known as a hub for venture capital funding and businesses which depend on venture capital. Since there's been a decrease in venture capital funding this quarter, at least as been reported in a number of different publications, it makes sense that companies are looking for other ways to stay afloat until that funding returns. Now, this isn't to say that Silicon Valley Bank will, or Silicon Valley, I should say, will become a tech hub of the past. California has weathered many, many economic downturns throughout history and has always returned to the forefront as the epicenter for tech talent in the United States. In Q1 of this year, though, the hub is certainly bracing, it appears, for a downturn.
Yeah, so interesting, and definitely something that we'll be keeping an eye on as we continue to report on the tech job market each quarter this year. As we wrap up today, let's talk briefly about what we can expect from Q2 and even perhaps for the rest of 2023. What are your thoughts when it comes to the trends that are going to stick around in Q2 and potentially beyond that?
I think this continued spreading out of tech talent supply and demand across the country as remote work continues to thrive is one of the most important trends that every technologist acknowledges right now, but I think more and more companies are acknowledging. I think that tech talent, especially those professionals that are living in California, will be evaluating cost of living and the opportunities available elsewhere in the United States as we move forward in time. And that's going to be the natural result of them looking for more value. Again, by no means do I think that there's an end to Silicon Valley and its importance in terms of being a tech epicenter for the United States. Nevertheless, there will be more tech hubs across the country, such as what we're finding emerging in Northern Virginia, Atlanta, Charlotte, Austin, Nashville. They've all become very enticing value propositions for tech professionals, combining the best and ample opportunities for a tech career with a lower cost of living and great quality of life. The rise of remote work makes these smaller cities more viable for tech talent in general. So tech talent, again, to reinforce the central theme, it remains in high demand, and especially in established industries such as manufacturing, retail, healthcare, as we told you earlier, aerospace, defense, finance, banking. Even the most old school industries are undergoing digital transformation right now and into the future. And it's got to be powered by tech professionals skilled in everything from data science to mobile app building to anything that's a transformational technology for these various industries. And while these organizations, these older line industries, might not offer the same outsized compensation as the tech giants, such as Google or Microsoft or Amazon, they do give those tech professionals the opportunity to have an outsized impact on the success of those businesses. And I would say that their tech stacks are becoming much more intriguing and modern. So you do learn at an accelerated rate as well by being put into these organizations. So that's how I would just describe the answer to the question, Courtney.
Yeah, and thinking immediately about summer coming up, are there any seasonal trends that those in the tech sector might need to be aware of?
Yes, I'll tell you the job postings have traditionally over the last, I'd say 2 decades, slowed down during the summer months of July and August specifically. So there is seasonality to tech job postings that's largely attributable to vacation time. But we'll be watching this very carefully and we will definitely report back.
Yes, we will. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Art, and just for
Thank
sharing
you.
all of your thoughtful insights. Thanks.
Thank you,
Uh,
Courtney.
yeah, well, be sure to watch for our next installment of this series for more information on the tech job market and the trends that are impacting your job search and tech hiring strategies.